everyone. Welcome to the Diary of a Hyperactive Crafter podcast, videocast, YouTube channel-ish. My name's Melissa and I'm coming to you from Springboro, Ohio, where I live with my husband and our two cats. Today is Sunday, March 2nd. February flew by. I got a lot done in February, but it was just a very, very busy month, which I knew it was going to be. So a lot has happened, and a lot is going to be happening in March as well. So I thought I would take some time this afternoon to catch up with you and show you what I've been working on through the month of February. I have some whips, I have new starts, I have some stats for you, and then I also have some exciting March stitchy plans that I want to share with you. I did want to talk a little bit about the name of this YouTube channel. So right now it's the Diary of a Hyperactive Crafter, but I tend to struggle with that. It's a mouthful, and I've noticed that anybody else that refers to this podcast also struggles with it. So I just don't think that it flows the way that a YouTube name should. And previously I was Honeybee Knits. I don't want to change it to Honeybee Crafts or Crafting Honeybee or anything like that, because I think that that is pretty common. There are a lot of people named Melissa that have the name Honeybee in the titles of their Instagram, on their Instagram pages and YouTube channels. So I do want something that stands out. But if you have any suggestions, leave them below, because I'm playing around with the idea of switching it up a little bit. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in the beginning, do some crowdsourcing. But other than that, let's go ahead and get started. So my first whip that I worked on in February should be no surprise to anybody. It's Pokemon. And I don't know how much different this actually will look for you. So this is Pokemon Epic. I call it Pokemon, but this is Epic Pokemon All Generation Cross Stitch by Lord Libidin. And this is a free pattern on their website. And this month I did 3,208 stitches, which is a lot less than what I thought I was going to do, but it's still in line with my goal. I have a goal to get anywhere from 100 to 300 stitches a day for this entire year. And so with me doing a little over 3,000 stitches in the month of February, this project is still at my goal. It was about 114 stitches per day on average. I did just work on this the first week, month. This year feels like we've already been through like 10 months, but so I did work on this the first week of February. But again, I did just I don't know how much you'll be able to tell because, well, I think that 3,000 stitches is good progress in the big scheme of things. When there's so many stitches in this project, sometimes that it can get lost. So I did a lot of outlining and a little bit of fill-in, but still working on the same section. So this did not get as much that much love this month, and that is because I got distracted by new starts. So in my last video I mentioned that the goal was to focus on Pokemon and then to work on my Quaker patterns by Rosewood Manor. And it should be, if you've been my crafty friend for a while, it should be no surprise to you that I did not stick with that plan. I actually ended up doing 2 new starts instead of working on my winter Quaker, not just my winter Quaker, but my Quaker patterns at all. So, and I said 2 new starts. I actually had 3 new starts because I forgot about one. So the first one, I think I had mentioned, this was planned. So this is Pink Santa, which I'll put up the pretty little side by side, but this is Pink Santa by, I think it's Pink Lily Patterns on Etsy. So this is how far I got. I did a lot of black. So I should also mention, so Pokemon, I am doing 2 over 1 full cross on 25 count. So this is also a full coverage pattern, but I'm doing it a little bit differently. This one is a 1 over 1 full cross on 32 count. So the stitches are a lot smaller. So while it doesn't look like much, I actually put in 4,656 stitches on this project. So almost, I mean, over 4,500 stitches. And most of it was black. And this is whole, like, you want to talk about some confetti stitching. This is crazy. I probably have done, I don't know, like 15 different colors of pink at this point, it feels like. Maybe not, but you can kind of tell a little bit. Jason says he can't tell, but there's a, you know, a flower coming in right here. And you may have already noticed this already, but I just wanted to point it out because it wasn't something that I really thought about before. But you can tell that I picked my black from different dye lots because I do have some striping in there. It's not as obvious looking in my camera, but in person, it's fairly obvious that I have like stripes of lighter areas of black. I met up with my friend Levi a couple times actually in the month of February, and I was talking to him about this, and he was like, "What are you gonna do?" And I was like, "Nothing." By the way, Levi is Stitch Happens on YouTube, so you should check him out. But I was like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to leave it because I feel like this is a big enough piece. I did cut the fabric to size. I think that it won't be noticeable in the big scheme of things. If for some reason I get further into the project and it's just really bothering me, then I may consider ripping that out and redoing it. But the black sections, but I really don't want to do that. I don't think it's going to be obvious enough for me to want to do that. So, especially ripping this out in 32 count, I feel like would be a disaster. So, I would probably end up doing something detrimental like cutting my fabric or anything. But anyway, it's just not something I ever thought about, having threads from the same dye lots. I'm a knitter. Knitting used to be like my part-time job. Like I used to knit so much. And it's extremely important to have matching dye lots and knitting, especially when you're working on a garment. But for things like Pokemon, my other full coverage project, the black is so spread out, and it's also showing you the back. It's also dispersed. Like there's other colors in between that kind of like break up the different sections of black that you can't tell that I was using black from different dye lots. However, this has made me consider getting a cone of 310 DMC. And I think that I will do that, but I have about 4 or 5 skeins left of 310 that I'm going to use up. It's already happened, so who knows how much I'll actually work on this project this year anyway. So and we're getting into more like bigger sections of color too, so I don't think it'll be as obvious. But anyway, so I want to get through that black first before I buy a cone of DMC 310. So there's that project. The next project I am obsessed with. I had to force myself to stop working on this. My friend Kimmy, hi Kimmy. So she was a little bit jealous of all of the stitch alongs that Leva and I do together, and she wanted to do one, and I wanted to do one with her. And so we decided for Valentine's Day we would start this one. So this is called Butterfly Bouquet by Sprouting Lupine. I think I got that wrong in my last video. So our anniversaries are very close to each other. So me and my husband's anniversary is on the 16th of February, and Kim's anniversary with her husband is that same week. So typically we're celebrating both Valentine's Day and our anniversaries with our significant others in the same weekend. So it's just something special that I like to share with her. And so we decided, since we were being kind of love bugs and talking about Valentine's Day and anniversaries, that we would start something kind of cutesy for Valentine's Day. So this is a Butterfly Bouquet by Sprouting Lupine. And this is on the fabric. I actually have this in my stash. I don't know what I bought it for. So funny story, Levi had gifted me a cut of, this is Picture This Plus Da Vinci. And he had gifted me a cut of it, but I think it was in Sparkle. And for some reason, I had also purchased the cut, so I couldn't remember if this was the cut that he had gifted me like years ago, or if this was the cut that I had bought for I don't know why. But this is on 18 count. 18 count Ada, 2/1, or 2/2. But I just became obsessed with this, working on this, and I did 4,859 stitches on this project. So again, another another decent chunk of stitching, and I just absolutely love this fabric. I have the orange section down there. I actually have quite a few patterns by Sprouting Lupine that I would like to do, and so I figured this is like a half yard cut, so I figure I would just do a couple of different pieces on the same cut of fabric and have them as like some companion pieces. So that was a lot of fun to work on. I spent about a week on both of those. So I think it looks like based on that. So I spent a week on Pink Santa and I got 4,600 stitches, and I spent a week on Butterfly Bouquet and I got 4,800 stitches. So I think about like 45 to 4,800 stitches is like my sweet spot for the week if I stitch every day. Which I think I only didn't stitch one day in the month of February. I think I stitch almost every day. So my next project that I have, so Levi and I met up in, I don't remember the name of the city, Rushville maybe, Indiana? I don't remember. Anyway, we went to Mystic Fabrics. She just opened about a month ago. She opened a brick and mortar store, and it's about an hour and 40-ish minutes from my house. And so a couple weekends ago, I'm pretty sure it was last Saturday, so a week ago, Levi drove, which his drive was much longer than mine, but we drove and we met up there and we did some shopping, which I don't have the acquisitions to show with me today other than this project. But actually, I think I took pictures of everything, so I'll pop it up on at the end of this video. I'll do like a little slideshow and show you what I got. But I got some fabric and patterns, and I really love the store. I wish it was a bit closer to me, just because an hour and 40 minutes isn't like, it's not going to be my local needlework store by any means. But I am glad that it is something that if I had a free day on the weekend and I wanted to go do some driving and shopping, I could easily go. There's a great Mexican restaurant that they recommended that I thought was delicious. So anyway, we met up, we did some shopping. We were there for a couple of hours just shopping. She had a little bit of everything, a lot of different price points, a ton of different patterns. She had all the beads and specialty floss that you might need for example, she had some Bella Filipina projects that you could kit up. She had weeks, she had gas, there was so much. She even had like a little room full of fabric for quilting, like if you're a quilter. So anyway, I just really enjoyed the trip, and I got a lot of fun stuff that I'll show at the end of this video. A lot of fabric because I couldn't control myself. But anyway, this is one of the patterns. I should actually show you the pattern first, right? So this is one of the animal cracker patterns. This is Chili. This is by Stacy Nash Designs. And I call it Chili and his pet snowman because if you don't know me, I love penguins, so they're my favorite animal. And Levi, when we first got there, he mentioned how much he loves the Animal Cracker series and how cute they are. And then I saw they had the penguin and I was like, let's do it. So then we immediately went home and started ours. I'm sure you'll have to watch his video to see his start, but this is mine. So I did use some fabric and stash. This isn't fabric that I bought there, but this fabric is 40 count Heartland Picture This Plus. I'm a big Picture This Plus fan. And I don't even think I realized that this was 40 count. I just kind of like found a nice neutral piece in my fabric stash and decided to use it. But he's so cute. And I've been working on him since about last Saturday. I did not working on him last night. I'll tell you why in a minute. But I did about 3,886 stitches on him. So a little less than a week. And I got quite a bit done, and he's super cute. I love him. So this one actually, I don't know like what percentage I am through this project at all, just because when I took a picture and put it in Pattern Keeper, so it's counting all the blank stitches as well. But I think I have a really great start on him. I would say he's over 50% done, including the snowman. So if I wasn't doing his pet snowman, then he probably would be about 70-ish% done. But I am going to do his pet snowman when I finish him. So anyway, I'll have to find a creative way to display them. But this is Chili the Penguin. So I should also mention Levi. So Levi I showed you before. He's made these amazing folios. I've made some too, but they're not like this. So you'll see them on the podcast every once in a while, but they're not this quality. His quality is amazing. Um, but anyway, so I've showed this folio before that he's made for me. I have two of these in the same fabric print, but one is yellow, like goldish on the inside, and one's brown. So you might see that a couple times. I think the one that has like the gold in it has my new normal project in it. But anyway, he made me a new one. Look at this. If you know me, this is very Melissa. Okay, this is so me. So he actually cut out this house from a different fabric pattern and appliqued it on. And then he did like a special quilting stitch, like to make like a crazy little, not crazy, it's beautiful, but like this. I mean, I think it's crazy because this took a lot of work to do. So he quilted this with this awesome, fun little design. And then look at this. He called it, I think he called it flange, like a faux flange binding border. Do you see that? There's like, I can barely do binding as it is. I just made a few of these for me and my friend Kim. And I can tell you, like, my binding looks like shit on there. But his, I mean, he not only does an amazing job with the binding, but he adds a little embellishment to it. It's just great. Look, two different colors on the flap. And I love the gold foil of the contrasting fabric. So here's the inside. So he's got the contrasting gold foil behind it. He's got the cute little scissor accent fabric. I mean, this is just, he just does such a good job. I'm super jealous of his sewing skills. My mom's a seamstress, and I told her the other day, I said, you know, it's funny that I feel this way because I grew up with my mom. Like, she's a professional seamstress. She makes wedding dresses and prom gowns. And it's funny because sewing is the one craft that I have where I hate the process, but I want the finished object. Whereas everything else, honestly, like the finished object is secondary to the actual process of doing it. And I told her this, and she's like, that really breaks my heart, Melissa. And I was like, I know, I'm sorry, but I had to tell you because I feel like it was a secret I was keeping. Not really, but I don't enjoy the process of sewing. It's a very, sewing gives me a lot of anxiety. And I can tell my cat has laid on this at some point when I wasn't looking because there's cat hair, little Princey Poo hair all over this. My cat's name is Prince. How original, right? I was 18 when I named him, so don't judge me. My other cat's name is Coco. So, anyway, but Prince hair on it. I'll need to roller it when I'm done. But how amazing is this? I can't believe that he literally, I mean, look at this. It's gorgeous. It's so cute. I love the main fabric. I mean, this is Melissa through and through. I love it. So anyway, he made that for me, and that is where Chili is living for now. I don't expect that Chili will be a long-term whip, so I will probably have to find my goal, and I think I know which one I want to get. But I think, so I want to stitch a house because I don't have any projects where I've stitched a house. And I'm in between two. So one is I'm a big Beatles fan. Like I love the Beatles. I have one tattoo, and it's a Beatles tattoo. It says "Let It Be." It's a reminder I need to remind myself quite often. Just let it be. Let it be, Melissa. Just let it be. Anyway, so anyway, all that to say, Blackbird Designs has a Beetle series, and one of the houses in it, I think, is called Strawberry Fields. So there's that option because I need to stitch a pink house. So that's one. But the other one I think is called Pinkwood Manor or something like that. It's one I've seen quite a bit on Flosstube, so you probably are screaming at me. But both of them, I have a 1, 2, 3 stitch wish list that is like if I added it all to cart, it'll probably be like $100,000 worth of stuff. But anyway, both of them are in my 1, 2, 3 stitch wish list. So next time I make an order, I plan to pop that pattern in. Or I think they had it when I went to Mystic Fabrics. So next time I drive out to Mystic Fabrics, I might pick it up. But anyway, so once Chili is done, I plan to have a pink house that I put in this folio to stitch on. And I'm so excited about it. I love it so much. Thank you, Levi. So, yeah. So then that was all my February stitching. So for February, I did a total of 16,609 stitches, which in January, we had more days in January. It's 31 days in January, and I only did 14,120 stitches. Let me enunciate. 14,120 stitches in January, whereas in February we had 28 days and I did 16,609 stitches, which averages out to about 590 stitches a day, which is like, holy crap, how did I do that? Especially because my new job, which I'll talk about in life stuff, is much different than my old job, and it's been quite stressful. In a good way, it's been stressful in a good way, learning new stuff. So by the time I was done, I think I napped every day in February when I got off work. So I'm very happy with how much stitching I got done. I think I made a lot of progress. So because of all the new starts, I did not work on my Quakers. However, now we're going to talk about March plans. So I was watching Sheldon Stitches. If you're on Flosstube, you probably have seen him already. I think that he got a shout out from Pam and Steph from Just Keep Stitching. He has about 3 or 4 videos up now, but he was talking about how he does a March bracket, which I love the idea. I've never done one for crafting, but I love the idea, but I always felt too anxious or too stressed to want to do that. How do you decide what whips are in your bracket, and like how do you do it? Like, I don't know. There's just a lot, but it all started to coming together in my head watching him, and then I also watched Marjorie Maid. So at first I thought, well, maybe I will do a whip bracket, and but I think the biggest thing that was holding me back from doing a whip bracket is I am not a great social media poster. So I knew that I wouldn't be able to keep up with the voting, like putting up the post for people to vote on, like which project to work on, which is how he does it. He does a voting system. But then I was watching Marjorie Maid, and I was watching her old videos because I had subscribed to her a while ago, but I hadn't watched any of her videos, so I've been catching up. And she mentioned that she did a whip bracket last year, and what she did was she worked on each project for 2 hours, and whichever project had the most stitches at the end of 2 hours moved on to the next round. And I was like, that sounds fun, and I like that, and I want to do that with all 40. I think I have 45 whips now since all my starts. I had 43 in my whip parade. No, 41 in my whip parade. Anyway, somewhere about roundabouts of 45 whips, right? So I want to touch all of those whips. That being said, I'll talk about it in life stuff. March is going to be very busy for me. So I know that my bracket will probably not be complete in March, but this is how I'm going to pick my projects for this month and probably into April. I'm just going to keep working through the bracket. And I started my first matchup yesterday. So my first matchup is complete. I have started my second matchup. I'm not going to talk about or show my second matchup yet because I'm like a quarter of the way through it. But I did finish my first matchup, so I figured I would show you. So my first 2 projects, and I used a app, I think it's just called Bracket Builder, and I just put in all my whips in there A to Z and hit randomize and build bracket, and so it randomly matched up all of my whips. And my first 2 that were picked was Treasure Hunt Bookshelf, which is Hade, charted by Hade, but it's Amy Stewart. And then the second one that I picked is Happily Ever After, which is by Frosted Pumpkin. So this is where I started and I'll do a side-by-side where I started and finished, but also show you the actual project for Treasure Hunt. So this is sideways, backwards. Yeah, everything's reversed for me in the camera. So anyway, so this is Treasure Hunt. And I did 302 hours, so I set a 2-hour timer. And if I got up, I paused the timer. If I took any extended breaks, I would hit pause on the timer. That being said, I normally stitch when I'm either listening to an audiobook or watching TV or watching a podcast. So this is distracted stitching, right? I'm not like solely focusing on this one task. So it's just a fun thing to do. So I'm not being like super strict about like, well, you took 30 seconds and watched the TV for 30 seconds instead of putting a stitch in. I'm not playing that. But anyway, so this is treasure hunt. I did 362 half stitches because I am working this 2/1 tent stitch on 32 count. So since they were half stitches, I counted this as 181 full stitches. So the technical number for this was 181. Holy confetti Batman. Again, not as bad as Pink Santa, but there are some confetti parts in here. So it took a bit longer to do a few stitches. So then the second project that got picked, so its partner is called Happily Ever After by Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. Here's where it was at before I started. And then here's where it's at now. Now, there are some white stitches in there. It's kind of hard to see. I think you can see it a little bit with me tilting it. But as you can see, I made quite a bit of progress on this. So I got in 2 hours, I did 407 stitches on this, which is one thing that I love about Frosted Pumpkin patterns because I feel like they are very potato chippy. They're very beginner cross stitch friendly. And then also I think this is on 14 count Ada. I'm pretty sure it's 14 count. I think for the most part, most of my Frosted Pumpkin patterns I do what's called for. So whatever's called for, it's probably 14 or 16 count Ada, which makes it a little bit quicker too because it's easier to go in and out. I don't have the name of this fabric. It's on. I know it's Picture This Plus. I don't know the colorway name, but again, called for. This is Happily Ever After. So anyway, all that to say, Happily Ever After moved on. So this one is going into the next round. And I am going through the complete round 1 of all the matchups before I go into round 2. But this one, I do already know the project that this gets to compete with because of the number of projects that I have, the way the bracket built, there's some projects that won't get touched until round 2. So this one will go up against Deadly Aquarium. So that's fun. It'll be interesting to see, especially since Deadly Aquarium, I'm doing all black outlining right now. So it'll be a close call between this one and that one. So unfortunately, one that I honestly thought this would be one of the final ones because it was 10 stitch. I thought this would be going through to the end. So already first matchup, there's already been an upset because this is knocked out now. But I did have a lot of fun working on this. So it makes me want to put it in my whip rotation whenever I'm done with this bracket business. Levi did ask me if I was going, whatever project 1 at the end was going to go for a finish. And I thought about it, and I think what I'm committing is if it has less than 10,000 stitches left, then yes, that'll be a commitment project to get to a finish. Otherwise, I think that it'll have like a goal of somewhere between, depending on the project, somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 stitches before it goes back in my where my whips go to die pile. That's what I call that. So anyway, so we'll see. We'll talk about it closer to the end when I have a better idea of which project is going to make it to the championships. But I would say that if it's less than 10,000 stitches, then definitely. There's like a weird one in there. So my little stitches project, I don't know if you remember, but that one, whenever I finish the motif that I'm on, I'm done with that project. I decided I'm not going to do the other little motifs that I had purchased for it because it's just not bringing me any joy and I just kind of want it done. It takes up a lot of time and I don't want to spend my stitchy time on it and I'm really not enjoying how it's set up. So that one I know, although it's a part of the whip bracket, it's going to be a finish and then it's going to be done. So whatever project that is matched up against is automatically going to get to go to the next round. But I'm fine with that because it actually gives me a set time and motivation to actually like sit down and get it done. The other thing is frogworts. I've been wanting to restart that on a bigger piece of fabric for like 1.5 years now, and it's a part of my whip challenge. So or my bracket challenge. So this again is going to give me the motivation to actually get that restart started. So anyway, I'm really enjoying this. I don't care if it takes me all year to finish this bracket system. I really like it. That being said, at some point, maybe not in the month of March, I might just have to catch up in later months. I do want to make sure that I get some time in on Pokemon because that is my focus piece for the year. Again, I'd like to get anywhere from an average of 100 to 300 stitches on it for the entire year. So, need to make sure I don't fall too behind on that. Um, I think that is it. I think that's it. That's it. Um, so now I don't have any other crafty stuff to talk about. I did some sewing, but I'm gonna wait to, well, first of all, if you're here for cross stitch, that's it. We're not talking any more cross stitch other than like some like, maybe I'll talk about my trip a little more, but um anyway, so I didn't do any other really crafty things. I did some sewing, but the sewing that I did, I made some folios for a friend, and I really would like to have her see those first before I show them here, because I made two of each, one for her, one for me. So when she receives those, then on my next video, I'll show you those. So I hurt my wrist working out a couple weeks ago. I originally thought that I had actually sprained it because it was very swollen and it hurt very badly. And I was like, well, I'll give it a couple days to see if the swelling goes down. And I bought like a over-the-counter wrist brace. And that seemed to help it, and the swelling did go down. So I was like, I don't think I need it. I actually had an appointment and I like canceled it because I was like, I don't need to do this. So it feels much better, but it did hinder my sewing for about 2 weeks. I could only sew for like 30 minutes at a time, which really sucked because I was really hoping to get these folios done and out to her before Valentine's Day, which just didn't happen. I actually just finished the last one this morning, so I'm going to mail those out to her tomorrow. But that being said, that also means that I did not do any cross stitching or crocheting or knitting. Cross stitching was really the only thing that didn't aggravate my wrist, especially because I could actually wear the brace while I was the type of brace I have. My wrist was very like limited in movement, so I couldn't really do any knitting or crochet or anything like that. And I'm okay with that. And I think I'm going to carry that into March. I'm not going to put any pressure on myself to do any extra crafting. I am really digging cross stitch right now, so that's where my heart is at. And so that's what I'm going to focus my extra time and energy into. It is a busy month. We have a lot going on. So I've been volunteering with the Five Rivers Metro Parks, which is our Metro Park system around here. So I had my first shift, I think either right before or right after my last video, where I got to go in and they have a place called Carriage Hill, where they run a farm as if it's in the 1800s. It's a great learning experience. A lot of kids and school, a lot of school trips are done there. But I got to do some weaving for them. So I wove some dish towels and dishcloths, which is nice because I had never gotten to use an actual loom before. So they had some looms that they had set up, and they taught me how to weave, and I wove those for them. So I have another shift coming up this coming weekend. So next weekend. We have a lot of doctor's appointments this month. So we have doctor's appointments and dentist appointments and all kinds of appointments. So I'll be busy with that. I am going to Pittsburgh for work about midway through the month for a couple of days. So I'll be there for about 3 days, which I'm not really, I'm a little nervous about, just because I've traveled for work before, but I've always went to our Cleveland branches. And this time I'm going to Pittsburgh, which is a bigger city. I'm less familiar with it. So I'm not excited about the idea of going by myself. However, I think once I go the first time, then I'll have to go probably about 3 to 4 times a year. So this is the first time. So after this first time, I think I'll be fine when it comes time to go back at the end of summer. But I'm excited to get to meet my boss in person, because so far everything's been virtual. And then also the same with my team. Most of my team is in Pittsburgh. I am one of 2 people that are remote. So the other remote person is a new hire to our company, not just our department. So it'll be fun. I won't feel like the only newbie when I go. But anyway, so I have been doing a lot of like trip planning for that, because I do have to book my own stuff. So like my car, my hotel, all of that I have to book. And so I had to do some of that, but also learning the job has been different, different kind of stress. So in my old job, I had been in some sort of change function uh, for probably about 8 years. And when I transitioned into my old job, it was a very easy transition because I was actually asked to move to the governance department that I was in because of my experience and background with the policies and change management there. So I was actually asked to move into a department that was being rebuilt to come in and help them revamp what they were doing and rewrite their procedures and policies and like just figure out like what makes sense and what doesn't. So when I came in, I came in for a very specific purpose. I was very knowledgeable about the subject matter. I knew what I was going in to do, and I knew the policies basically. In my new job, it's a completely new organization for me. So I'm learning all new acronyms and all new procedures and processes. And the other part of my new job is I am doing a lot of like executive reporting. Executives tend to be very picky about how certain things are written and what they're looking for essentially, and also for the regulators too, right? So some of what I do goes out into regulators. This is really boring for most of you. But so kind of learning how they want to see specific charts, for example, or specific data or executive summaries, things like that, learning what they want and what they're looking for. And also where the data comes from, what the data is, how to read the data. So it's been a lot, quite stressful mentally. But I finally feel like in the last week or so, I'm getting into a good groove and starting to understand the connections, and yeah, it feels good. It feels good this week. But the first month, I would say it was pretty rough. Also, that being said, in my old job, I was a business analyst advisor. And so essentially, I would advise other business analysts on how to do their job. And I was in meetings probably 6 to 8, even 9 or 10 hours a day, depending on the day and the time of month. Um, and I did a lot of consulting work. And a lot of those meetings that I went to were either meetings that I was watching, like walking somebody through a process and watching them do it, or so training somebody else, or I was watching somebody else train somebody else. So if somebody was running a lunch and learn, for example, I would be on the call for backup to kind of like pitch in if they need help or to provide constructive feedback after the call. So what that meant is I had a lot of free time with my hands. So I needed to focus and make sure I wasn't multitasking so that I could pay attention to what was being said within the meeting. And so I had time with my hands were free where I could knit or crochet or sew or whatever the case may be. And I do not have that anymore because I am the person that is actually doing the work versus telling somebody how to do the work. And so I have zero crafting time during the day like I used to, which is fine. But it does change. But it's just different. I'm used to having a little bit more freedom during the day to plan my day. And right now I just don't have that. My day is planned for me, which is fine. But it's just new. It's different. What else? So I mentioned that we had an anniversary. So my husband and I have been married for 17 years. So it feels weird because our next anniversary will have been married for half of our lives, which is crazy. It's crazy. But time flies. Our cat, Coco, he was he was acting a little off. So our cats, we got them when we got married. So they are also 17. And one of our cats, Coco, he is diabetic and he also has kidney disease and suspected lymphoma. And I say suspected because they did find on an ultrasound, they found suspicious spot and some inflammation in the lymph nodes, etc. But the spot that they found is kind of deep to biopsy, and they would have to put him under anesthesia to biopsy. And if you know anything about cats, 17-year-old cats, it's a risk to put them under anesthesia at 17 years. And so the decision that we made and that the vet suggested was that we just let him be. He is obviously sick. There's obviously he's not like a kitten anymore, but he is actually, his quality of life is still there. He's moving around well. He is eating, and he's lost a lot of weight, but that's kind of to be expected at his age with the kidney disease that he has. And anyway, all this to say, we had a bit of a scare last week where he just looked really out of it. And I suspected that it was his insulin dose because he has lost a lot of weight. I had been suspecting for a while that we were giving him a little bit too much insulin. So we had already started to decrease the amount we were giving him twice a day. But then one morning I looked at him and I was like, Jason, he does not look good. So we took him in that afternoon. They did a glucose check, and sure enough, his blood sugar was like 48, which is very, very low in cats. And I mean, it's low in humans too, but very concerning. So we did a couple days of insulin rechecks. So we decreased his dose again. We skipped the dose that night, decreased it the next day, took him back, and it was still pretty low. And so she said that she wanted to try taking him off insulin altogether. She said that about 20% of cats with diabetes can go into remission. And she thought that potentially with his weight loss and his age that he may be in remission. And so we did. We stopped giving him insulin, took him back for a recheck, and his blood sugar was in a normal range. And then we're taking him back again tomorrow, which is like a week later, just to make sure that his blood sugar didn't spike again. He wasn't like having something funky going on. But not having to give him insulin twice a day is actually kind of a relief because I don't know if you've ever had to inject your animals with insulin, but he's actually really good at taking the shot. It's just kind of nerve-wracking to make sure that you give him the right dose and you do it at the right time of day, twice a day, and that he eats enough when you give it to him, because sometimes older cats can be picky eaters. So kind of coaxing him to eat and forcing him to eat, it can be a little stressful sometimes. But regardless, right now he's not getting insulin. I hope it stays that way. And he seems so much better this week. The day after we skipped a shot, he was like a kitten again. So our pets are older pets, so we expect these things to happen. We are no stranger to senior animals. If you were around for my knitting podcast, you know this. But we have decided we are not getting any more pets because the stress of this is just way more than what we want to have in the near future. So yeah, other than that, we've been just trying to manage with the things that are going on in the world right now, and the amount of just feels like hate. It just feels like there's a lot of hate, and it's just insanity. And it's the future right now is just so uncertain, and so we are just controlling what we can control, managing what we can manage, and preparing, trying to kind of cut back a little bit to make sure that we are financially secure. We've wanted to move, and we've talked about moving several times. In fact, at the end, there's some health things that happened as to why we didn't. We were actually preparing our house to sell, and then some stuff popped up, and we were like, it's just not a good time, so we stopped. Yeah, we'll see what happens with the future, but for now, we're just taking it day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour. But I've talked about wanting to move for a long time, so we so we're still open to our future possibilities, but right now we really don't want to move with having senior animals, just because the stress of moving can actually cause them to I have friends who have moved, and the stress has been so bad for their pets that their pet actually ended up passing away, unfortunately. And I think with older animals, they're already battling health issues, and I think just adding that additional level of stress is just really hard on them. So I have no plans to move for as long as I have pets, but when we, and unfortunately it is a win, but when we no longer have pets, there definitely will be a conversation about selling the house and figuring out where we're going to go next. But anyway, I'm ranting. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna put up a slideshow of all the fun things that I bought at Mystic Fabrics. If you are in or around the Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Illinois area, maybe even Michigan, I would highly suggest that you take a little road trip to Mystic Fabrics. I think it's worth the drive. That being said, it is a very small town and it's very rural. So it's not, don't expect it to be like, oh, I'm going to Chicago and while I'm there, I'm also going to do all this other stuff. No, if you're going there, you are going there for the cross stitch. So make sure that whoever you drag along with you knows this. I don't even think there's a hotel anywhere by. So I think the closest major city would be Indianapolis. So I think if you wanted to take a trip to Indianapolis, it would be a good like off the path achievement that you could do. Um, but anyway, highly recommend that shop. And I think next time that I have a Saturday where I'm just feeling like I need to take a drive, I think I'll head back out. So anyway, I hope you guys have a good couple of weeks. Hopefully I'll be back sometime in March, especially with the bracket. I think I want to do some more frequent, shorter updates for you guys, just to kind of keep up with it. And I have recorded some Stitch With Me videos. I just need to do the voiceovers. So hopefully I'll pop those up in between. But I hope you guys are having a wonderful beginning of March. Spring is almost here. It's beautiful outside right now, but it's still cold, unfortunately. We had one really nice day a couple days ago. And I was like, oh, maybe I can go hiking this weekend. And then I looked at the temperatures and was like, nope, not happening. Anyway, have a great couple weeks and I will see you soon. Bye.